A quiet farm in America hid the remains of more than 40 people, buried by a woman the world came to call the Mistress of Death. Soldiers in Persia shelled their own parliament, turning constitutional hope into rubble. While in the Ottoman Empire, a revolution of young soldiers forced an absolute ruler to kneel to a constitution. And yet, in a Paris theater, a single minute of hand-drawn figures began the age of animation. By year's end, an earthquake and tsunami would erase cities in seconds, killing more than 100,000 souls. In this episode, we uncover 10 more buried events from 1908, moments history hid from the headlines, but that shaped the century to come. On April 28, 1908, the quiet morning in La Porte, Indiana, broke with the smell of smoke and the sight of Belle Gunness's farmhouse burning to the ground. When the ashes cooled, searchers found 4 bodies, 3 children, and a headless woman everyone assumed was Belle. But as investigators dug further, they unearthed a horror no one could explain. Body after body, buried in the farmyard. Over the next days, the count grew past 40, victims lured by Belle's newspaper ads promising marriage, land, and a fresh start. The press called her the Mistress of Death. Some said she killed for money, others claimed she simply enjoyed it. And as rumors spread, a darker theory emerged, that Belle herself had escaped, leaving another woman's body in her place, while La Porte searched for a missing murderess half a world away. The sound of artillery was about to silence a nation's democracy.
By the order of His Majesty, the Majlis is dissolved.
On June 23, 1908, the streets of Tehran filled with the deep thunder of wheels and hooves. The Persian Cossack Brigade had been given their orders. Their target was the Majlis, the Persian parliament, where constitutional reformers had gathered under the promise of a new future. Inside the royal palace, the Shah's decree was signed, a single page that would end the first experiment in Persian democracy. The Cossacks took their positions, the cannons were wheeled into place, and the air grew still. Moments later, they fired. Stone and glass shattered, and the parliament crumbled beneath the roar. By nightfall, Tehran was silent, the constitution suspended, its defenders imprisoned or dead. But in another empire, the roar of gunfire would signal not the death of a constitution, but its return.
Attention, His Imperial Majesty has accepted the demands. The Constitution will be restored and Parliament will convene at once. Spread this to all divisions.
In July 1908, the Ottoman Empire trembled, not from foreign invasion, but from within its own ranks. They were known as the Young Turks, demanding that Sultan Abdulhamid II restore the constitution suspended for over 30 years. From the barracks to the streets, their call for reform ignited a movement too large to silence. Under mounting pressure, the Sultan yielded, signing the decree that would reopen Parliament and bring back the constitution. Celebrations erupted across the empire. Soldiers marched not for war, but for liberty. It was the dawn of a new constitutional era, but for the Ottoman Empire, this was only the beginning of greater upheavals to come. And while revolution reshaped empires in Paris, a flicker of light and ink would spark a new art form entirely.
From Paris, tonight at the Gaumont Palace, audiences witness moving drawings come to life, a marvel of modern invention, the first of its kind.
On August 17, 1908, in a small Paris theater, audiences watched something they had never seen before. Moving, hand-drawn drawings that seemed alive. It was Émile Cohl's Fantasmagorie, the world's first fully animated cartoon, drawn frame by frame on paper, then filmed in stark black and white. The figures danced, transformed, and dissolved into new shapes, a magic trick only possible in the mind of an artist. With just a stick figure, a flower, and a mischievous clown, Cohl sparked an entirely new art form: animation. Every second of film took hundreds of drawings, each one photographed individually. A labor of love in an era before computers or shortcuts. From that Paris evening, animation would grow into a global language, telling stories in ways no live actor could. But while Parisians celebrated this new magic across the world in Africa, something far darker was unfolding.
This is the Colonial Office in Brussels. Effective immediately, the Congo Free State is to be placed under the authority of the Belgian government.
On November 15, 1908, Belgium officially took control of the Congo Free State, ending King Leopold II's personal rule, but not the suffering. For over 2 decades, Leopold's private colony had been a nightmare of forced labor, mutilation, and death, all in pursuit of rubber and ivory. International outrage had forced change. Journalists, missionaries, and whistleblowers exposed the horrors to the world. But Belgium's takeover was no clean break. The system of exploitation remained, only now under a national flag. In Brussels, they spoke of progress. In the Congo, the chains had simply been painted in new colors. The world would remember the Congo Free State as one of history's darkest human rights tragedies. One that did not end in 1908. Meanwhile, across the globe, a different kind of negotiation was underway. One not of whips and chains, but of warships and treaties. Before we go to the next event, if you've made it this far, give us a like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us which moment from 1908 surprised you most.
Urgent naval communique from Washington. Terms of the Route Takahira Agreement confirmed. Both nations pledged to maintain peace in the Pacific.
On November 30th, 1908, the United States and Japan signed the Route Takahira Agreement, a handshake meant to keep peace across the Pacific. Named after U.S. Secretary of State Elihu Root and Japanese Ambassador Takahira Kogoro, the accord promised to respect each other's territorial possessions. For America, it meant recognition of Japan's dominance in Korea. For Japan, it meant acceptance of America's control in the Philippines and Hawaii. Behind the polite signatures, both nations eyed each other's growing naval power with suspicion. The agreement bought time, but not trust. Within a generation, the Pacific would be engulfed in war. In 1908, however, both sides left the table claiming victory and peace. But across the ocean, an invention was quietly taking shape, one that would wrap the world in a thin, transparent skin.
Test number 17, adjusting mixture, remarkable clarity forming.
In 1908, deep inside a Swiss laboratory, chemist Jacques Brandenburger tried to solve a sticky problem: how to make fabric resist wine stains. Instead of a better tablecloth, he discovered something far stranger: a thin, transparent film peeling away from the fabric. It was strong, it was waterproof, and it was crystal clear, like holding solid glass in your hands. Brandenburger had no idea his accidental creation would change global packaging forever. In 1912, he perfected it. Soon, cellophane would protect everything from chocolates to military maps. It began as a wine stain solution and became the invisible skin of the modern world. But in the same year, another invention was quietly taking shape, one that would one day detect the invisible forces that could kill us.
Reading unstable, signal spike detected. Adjusting sensitivity.
In 1908, German physicist Hans Geiger was chasing an invisible enemy: radiation. Working with Ernest Rutherford, Geiger built a crude but groundbreaking prototype: a metal cylinder connected to delicate wires and glass tubes. It could hear radiation, tiny electrical pulses clicking through headphones like distant raindrops. This was the birth of a technology that would one day save lives and warn of danger in seconds. In time, it would be called the Geiger Counter, a sentinel against the unseen. But in that moment, it was just a fragile cylinder in a quiet German lab, and the future had only begun to click. That December, far from the quiet safety of a laboratory, the Earth itself would roar and wipe entire cities from the map.
Urgent bulletin. Violent tremors reported across southern Italy. Massive destruction in Messina. Tsunami warnings issued.
On the morning of December 28, 1908, southern Italy awoke to a sound like the tearing of the earth itself. A magnitude 7.1 earthquake ripped through the Strait of Messina, leveling buildings in seconds. Those who survived the quake barely had time to breathe. The sea was already racing toward them. Within minutes, a wall of water slammed into Messina and Reggio Calabria, erasing streets and drowning thousands. The devastation was near total. Some neighborhoods were wiped clean, as if they had never existed. When the water receded, more than 100,000 lives were gone, the deadliest earthquake in European history. On January 9, 1908, Simone de Beauvoir was born in Paris, a philosopher, feminist, and author whose ideas reshaped how the world thought about gender and freedom. On June 26, 1908, Salvador Allende entered the world, a Chilean physician who became the first Marxist president elected in a liberal democracy in Latin America. On August 25, 1908, Henri Becquerel, Nobel Prize-winning physicist who discovered radioactivity, passed away, leaving behind a legacy that changed science forever. On November 7, 1908, Robert Leroy Parker, better known as Butch Cassidy, met his end in Bolivia, the legendary outlaw whose Wild Bunch Gang became the stuff of American frontier myth. If you enjoyed this journey through 1908, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps this history alive. 1909 is coming this Thursday, and you won't believe the events we've uncovered. And if you missed part 1 of 1908, click the card now to watch the stories that started it all. Until next time, take care, and thank you for keeping the past alive with us.